Okay, what's worse than having only 4 minutes to present your work? It's wasting 10% of the time on a stupid joke. So let's start. Companies, by and large, want more and better data. Okay, and one way to do that, you need consumers to share their data with you. If you think of the Facebook, the Googles, etc. of the world, one way to encourage consumers to share with you is to use some form of choice architecture to encourage them to share. And an example is kind of this cookies sharing, all defaulting you to share everything as the default, right? Today, we're going to talk about the implications of thinking of the joint distribution of the heterogeneity of different types have for their value of data and the heterogeneity of their willingness to share, and the heterogeneity of the effects of those different choice architectures on different types. And if you spend a minute thinking about it, which granted you don't have, you will quickly see that there's a trade-off that arises between the data volume, how many people share their data, and the data quality, which is who shares their data and what's the composition of types who share their data. So to illustrate that, let's look at the figure on the left here, some Econ 101. Two supply curves of two, let's say, equally shared types, high and low. The high types are less likely to share at any given price. And at some price, P star, we have 40% of the high type sharing their data and 50% of the low type. We can find perhaps a different choice environment, such with the defaults or whatever, that will encourage everyone to share more, but it will disproportionately affect the low types. And now what we'll have more data at P star, but we'll have a ratio of 2:1 of the low type to high type in our data rather than a 5:4. We are going to look at that in data. So what we're going to do is we'll recruit about 5,030 Facebook users, and we are going to elicit their willingness to accept. And we're actually going to buy the data from them from a subset of them to sell us their private Facebook data. Between participants, we will randomize the choice environment in ways that shouldn't affect an incentive-compatible valuation, but obviously it will. So we're going to change the defaults. Will you sell us your posts for $20, yes or no? Some people, the yeses will be pre-checked, some the no's, others will have to make an active choice for all those decisions. We're also going to change the price anchor in a way that, again, shouldn't affect it, but it does. And what we find is that indeed, there's large heterogeneity in data valuation, and there's also heterogeneity in the frame effect. So basically, high income, more educated, older people have higher value of their data, but are also less likely to be affected by the choice architecture frame effects. And what that leads to is exactly this kind of trade-off. So if you look at the figure here on the left, on the horizontal axis is an index of the bias in the data compared to the full sample on some observables. The vertical axis is the share of people who share their data. And each line here is a price. So if you look at the $25 line, it connects two decisions under two different choice environments. The diamond is the choice environment that will maximize the volume of share, the share of people who share their data. And the light circle is the frame that will minimize the bias on those observables. And the slope of that gives you an idea of the extent of the trade-off in the data. And here it's quite flat, meaning that you don't lose much in terms of volume, but you gain a lot in terms of bias reduction. Why should you care? So to the extent that the data collector cares about the data composition, you can think of now first taking that into account, quantifying the trade-off between volume and bias in your data, and then finding the optimal price and frame to kind of balance this trade-off, or even better, you can think of, I can't really randomize prices. Prices are sticky, there are fairness concerns, but I can personalize frames and update them quickly over time to encourage or discourage different types to share their data. Thank you.